All of these worlds right now are intersecting, especially in an election year, by the way. If you get a pro-crypto head of the SEC, all bets are off. I think we start to really see some more experimentation in this vein in a macro view. Welcome in, everybody, into another episode of Coinage. I'm your host, Zach Guzman, coming to you live from our Brooklyn studio in New York City. GM, thank you for joining us as once again we kick off what is expected to be a pretty busy week for both markets and crypto as the Fed prepares its latest meeting. Not a lot of people are expecting rates to be cut at that meeting, but perhaps we'll learn a bit more about their go-forward path. And as always, we want to check out the charts, starting with Bitcoin right now, trading about near $69,000 as we await what, again, will be a very busy week. Of course, not just Bitcoin in focus. We're going to chat a little bit of Ethereum, what's to be expected there as that one kicks off, or at least as the Ethereum ETF eventually comes to fruition. We're going to be chatting with James Seyffart from Bloomberg later on in the week. Tomorrow, chatting with him about his expectations so far. We're going to get into what that might look like when they do start trading, how far away that is. But before we do, I want to thank our sponsor on today's show, as we've now partnered with the Thesis-backed team at Mezzo. Important to note there that this show is brought to you by Mezzo, a new home for Bitcoin holders to cultivate Bitcoin and grow wealth together. Use your BTC on Mezzo to unlock real utility and honest yield. Join Bitcoin's first open source economic layer today. Thank you to our friends at Mezzo. I want to kick things off today with a deeper look at what last week brought when it comes to the CoinShares report. Of course, a lot of people celebrated the inflows into the Bitcoin ETFs. Huge week. Monster week last week. Texas, we have that chart in terms of looking at inflows. You can see there a huge bounce back in terms of what we saw last week. And really not just Bitcoin, though of course that has been the bulk of where these inflows go. Not to be remiss, excitement around the ETH ETF actually had Ethereum seeing its best week of inflows since March. Total of $69 million flowing into those vehicles as well. Riding the excitement and the wave around when those ETH ETFs are expected to trade. That number probably, I guess it'll be interesting to see if that number holds. But nonetheless, obviously Bitcoin ETFs, the big thing there. And looking down, I suppose, the list here of all the other Bitcoin ETFs, not unexpected to see that Grayscale number continue to tick lower in terms of outflows. Year-to-date flows now close to, what is that, 17,000 million? So that would be 17, that can't be right. Is that high? It's been wild to watch how much money has flown out of Grayscale's their own ETF and all of this. And perhaps, possibly, you know, the reason why we saw that shakeup, not a lot of people wanted to see that happen if you're at Grayscale. Again, when it comes to Ethereum products, of course, ARK not playing, Cathie Wood not playing in this round when it comes to the ETH ETF. So it'll be interesting to see how that all shakes out. Of course, still time to go before we see those ETH ETFs trade. We'll be chatting with James tomorrow about that one. When it comes to expectations around that, though, I want to dig a little bit deeper into that ETH ETF debut, because we have seen, you know, various numbers thrown out there. We talked a little bit last week of what James and Eric Balchunas at Bloomberg were expecting to see when it comes to inflows for ETH ETFs. And now, new report here, you've got new expectations coming out when it comes to what the size of that will be when we get those ETH ETFs approved. New report out of the block is the expectations that we could see 20% of Bitcoin ETF flows. At least that is what is expected when you chat to the head of derivatives at Bitfinex. So that might be the expectation there. That would still be pretty healthy. I mean, when you think about how successful the Bitcoin ETFs were, let's not overlook how successful a 20% repeat of that would be. That would still be, I think, one of the more successful ETF launches for Ethereum. So nothing to kind of laugh at there. I think it would be pretty serious of a number to see if that is indeed what it is. But that echoes kind of what we saw last week from the expectations of both James and Eric. So consensus seems to be formulating around 20% of what we saw with Bitcoin ETF launches. As far as I am concerned, I think that number seems about right. That's generally where I was as well. But you got to wonder, there are kind of two conflicting things happening there. One, staking is not going to be included in these ETH ETFs. We already know that. So that might be a damper in terms of where capital flows go. B, kind of a bit of an overhang. If you're a crypto investor or a fund that's looking to allocate to crypto and the Bitcoin ETFs just started trading in January, you might say, not sure how much dry powder is there for those same funds to now allocate to Ethereum. And perhaps even if they might shift some money that was in the Bitcoin ETFs over to Ethereum, that might cause Bitcoin's price to drop, which then creates a bit of an overhang for ETH, as we know these kind of trade in lockstep. On the contrary, you could say that perhaps because we saw Bitcoin's price improve so much since the Bitcoin ETFs got approved, that a lot of people might not be idiots and say, hey, I want to get involved in that trade before the price of Ethereum pumps later on in the year. So perhaps you could see, I think, maybe some positivity around them being listed more so than people are expecting. Maybe 20% is a bit of a lower number, a lower bound for what we could expect. So I think I might be more in that camp as well. I think for years, people have kind of understood the difference, at least if you're in the investing public, the difference between Bitcoin and Ethereum. And I think that perhaps there is still a pretty large number of people who want to allocate to Ethereum and probably want to get ahead of the crowd before those ETFs get approved. We've seen Grayscale's ETH ETF, by the way. I don't know if I can bring that up on the spot here, but we've seen that discount in terms of Grayscale's Ethereum Trust, ETHE. That has completely evaporated, and perhaps you would expect that to happen because of the way that we've seen now ETH ETFs get approved, just basically waiting for when they will be able to start trading. That's something that we covered in the week lead up, the weeks leading up to the ETH ETFs getting approved. Texas, I did manage to bring this up, so shout out to your boy himself. But as we look at this discount in Grayscale's Ethereum Trust, completely evaporated as people want to get into this. So I would say that's probably a sign, as it always is, of people wanting to front run these things starting to trade. Why not buy it at a discount? Of course, now it's basically trading at par. So that discount has somewhat of evaporated since, these bad boys got approved. But I would say, generally, all signs leading to, as we see inflows into these products, as we said off the top, CoinShares showing that best week for Ethereum since March. I would say still pretty exciting to see some of the pent-up demand around these ETH ETFs. So I am in the camp that we could be looking at some good moves for ETH. You can put me down on record for that, as of course, perhaps I was on record ahead of these things getting approved, saying that, hey, look out. We had Hester Peirce telling us that this might happen earlier on in January. Nonetheless, I digress. We move on past Ethereum into perhaps an area of the show we don't actually cover all that much, which is, of course, celebrity meme coins. Because over the weekend, shout out to Thread Guy. I actually think that this was probably one of the better podcasts. Not a huge podcast guy, but this was one of the better ones that I've watched in a while. Loved the interview. Loved the way it was free-flowing. Great job, Thread Guy, on A, getting Iggy to talk about this meme coin, and B, the discussion around it, because I thought it was pretty interesting to kind of hear so much is made of celebrity coins that have not performed well. Texas, perhaps, as someone who's new to the space, this might be eye-opening for you. But Cryptonary had gone through, I have it pulled up here, Instagram. They have an Instagram of all these failed celebrity coins. So just backstory, backdrop in terms of why I think so many people are harsh to come on Iggy for this. Iggy Azalea, of course, the rapper. Because historically, celebrity meme coins have not performed well. You can look at Shaq, you can look at Kim Kardashian, you can look at basically anyone in this list. Soulja Boy, DJ Khaled got hit by the SEC actually for him playing a role in a lot of these tokens before. They haven't performed well. They're usually just rug pulls, ways to get rich quick. Celebrities, as if they aren't rich already, using these tokens as a way to maybe bring in money and dump on all their fans. And so that's what Iggy's going up against in terms of the backdrop of celebrity coins not performing well, maybe why people don't trust her. And so pretty interesting to hear her on the other side saying, look, that's not what this is. Obviously an uphill battle for her to take on when it comes to distrusting crypto people, and of course that's what we're told, trust nobody. So it is an uphill battle, but just want to play a little clip from that interview to maybe talk about what her vision is, because again, you might not trust it. I don't know if I do yet, but the interview got into, I think, a little bit of what she's trying to do with a coin here, and surprise, surprise, had to do with payments, though when you are a very famous rapper or artist talking about a monopoly that we now know the DOJ is going after in Ticketmaster, perhaps a little interesting to think about a token or at least a model that some other artists, musicians might be able to copy if you can actually pull it off. Here's what Iggy told Thread Guy in that interview. Take a listen.
I want meme coins, especially the ones that I'm involved with, to live on platforms where it does become retail. I want that, and I think that that's an amazing kind of like utility that future coins could have if I can, make this happen in as much systems as possible. Like, what about Live Nation? If we start doing artist coins, why couldn't they integrate token into payment? They could. I know stable coin, we all talk about that, but like, they can fucking put their dick out and do it.
Now, I don't know if that's a technical term, an industry term that you might be using there that I'm unfamiliar with. But listen, over the weekend after that interview dropped, if you're looking at the token price of Mother, it's up about 20% over the last 3 months. I don't even think it's actually been trading for the last 3 months. Time is always warped. But just going back to May, so that's about a couple weeks actually, whether you put it on a year or a month. Up 20% since then. Over the weekend, up after that interview dropped, which is interesting to kind of watch as maybe some things traded sideways and or down, not necessarily connecting too many dots because, of course, as we all know, celebrity coins, celebrity meme coins aren't exactly trading the same way that anyone should ever talk about stocks or Bitcoin or Ethereum, just because the liquidity and all these things are so low, whether or not you have a market maker playing a pretty integral role and whether or not that could all disappear overnight, which is always my warning for anyone talking about this. But when you zoom out and maybe put the coin aside, at least the price for a little bit, just talking about the idea of what Iggy is trying to do with this is interesting. At the same time, we've seen payments maybe not work out so well. You can look at ApeCoin as well in terms of just what Bored Ape has tried to do with their own token and how hard it is to integrate. And as someone building in the space, there is a very serious issue at hand to discuss, which is, of course, a lot of people just don't give two shits about Web3. And they don't want to go through the struggles of having to learn it and using it in a way that she was talking about there when it comes to payments, because why the hell would you want to use something for payments if you're speculating it's going to be going up? It's the same problem we've seen with Bitcoin and the idea of why people don't want to both use it for daily payments and also as digital gold, because they kind of conflict with each other. But nonetheless, I think if you can pull it off and maybe if you can build the things that she wants to build, sure, it could all work out. I just want to say that when you look at the coverage off of, I guess, what was just talking or what she was talking about in that interview, very quick have we seen a lot of outlets start to run with what she said. And again, I think it's on her to maybe show that any of these things, including, by the way, just a slight mention of the mobile company she's attached to, in using this token. That was another thing that she maybe floated as something that could happen with that coin. You got to think about how many people might hold that coin and also might potentially be in the market for that specific company and cell phone plans. What is the real overlap there and how serious is this? Nonetheless, basically every crypto publication ran with it and was like, look at this utility. And I just, hate to be a hater. I don't want to be a hater, but I will be the person warning you. Don't get caught over your skis, because we've seen this play before. As we know, sometimes these things don't necessarily pan out. But nonetheless, if you haven't checked it out, I'd say check out the interview. Kind of interesting to hear someone on the other side, especially one that is kind of in this new wave. We'll see how many other celebrity tokens continue to come out after Caitlyn Jenner, after Iggy Azalea. Perhaps just the start in this crazy run-up. Speaking of crazy run-up, this is where I really start to doubt why I left my job covering stocks in traditional media, Yahoo Finance, to now talk about meme coins as we talk about one from Iggy Azalea and shift over to another. This is where I start to lose respect for myself, quite frankly. However, sometimes it's what you got to do. I'm going to fall on the sword here. I'm going to do it for you. We're digging into the trenches here. We're going to talk about something that I personally wouldn't want to talk about and don't think is A, funny, or B, cool, but nonetheless, I can't fight the market, and sometimes this shit just happens in a way that I have to cover. And that is, of course, Elon Musk talking on a stream recently about Uranus. Just for context here, of course, we all know Elon Musk, as the person running SpaceX, has often talked about colonizing Mars, a planet that is closer than Uranus. It's a planet that is a mere, what is it, Texas? You're the astronaut around here. 140 million miles to Mars is how far Earth is. 1.6 billion miles to Uranus. I mention that because I don't think there's any scientific reason to maybe bring up Uranus on a gaming stream, but nonetheless, Elon Musk did. Here's what he said on that stream, which was then retweeted by Mario Nawfal. Of course, a very large crypto account, and then one more we're going to talk about in just a second. But here's what Elon Musk said just a few hours ago.
We definitely want a rocket to reach Uranus. That's it's a stretch goal to reach Uranus, but definitely something we think we should aim for.
All right, so normally I wouldn't play that clip and talk about a meme coin that is pretty small. However, I'm not an idiot. You shouldn't trade like an idiot. And of course, this is not financial advice. Never is, never will be. However, when I connect the dots of what just happened in that clip in terms of Elon Musk talking about Uranus, it's a space joke. It's a joke that maybe perhaps a second grader might make. Of course, we've always talked about that planet's name before. But there's someone else who mentioned that before as well, and maybe even mentioned it on a Fox Business interview. I couldn't find the clip. But Brock Pierce, one of the co-founders of Tether, big guy in the crypto space, was out in Dubai, wouldn't stop talking about this token. Now you've got Elon Musk talking about it, and then Mario retweets it. I don't know anything about this project. I don't know anything about it. Brock talked about it a little bit in Dubai. A lot of people were talking about it out at Token 2049 in terms of the sphere and the circle that was out there. To have Elon Musk now talking about this potentially, I'm just putting it on your radar. I'm just connecting dots. We're looking at the chart. Again, this is a very small project, $5 million market cap. And again, this would fall into the category of, I don't even know if I can trust that market cap number because I don't know who holds this thing and I don't know how quickly it could dump. These are the questions I ask myself in terms of, is any of this safe to discuss? I should disclose that after he talked about it, I was like, what the hell? Why not? I'll buy a couple of these bad boys. So disclosing the fact that I own a very small portion of Uranus. And it's dumb. It's dumb. And by the end of, hearing someone talk about it, you're like, what the hell are we doing in crypto? But nonetheless, I must mention that Elon Musk talked about it. And then I checked out how much of this is, am I crazy or is all of this kind of somewhat related? And am I connecting dots that shouldn't be connected? But I would raise the fact that, of course, if you go over to Brock Pierce's Twitter account, which I will now do and bring up for you, lo and behold, what did he retweet? But he retweeted the Mario Nawfal clip of Elon Musk that we just shared with you. So again, I am just connecting the dots. I'm just putting this there for you. I'm putting it on your radar. I don't think that it's ever a smart move to fade the crypto cabal. I was fortunate enough to be around one of the members, and I bring to you what they told everyone on the yacht in Dubai. I share some of the alpha. Is it good alpha? I don't know. That's up to you. I'm just putting it on your map. And if you say, Zach, what the hell are you doing with your career now? Talking about meme coins and talking about jokes that aren't even good. I would say to you, that's fair. And perhaps there's another meme coin we can interest you in that the coinage community has been discussing. And it is also one that makes me question my career as well. However, it is somewhat rooted in, I think, something that might make sense. As the Euro Champions approach, Euro Championship, I should say, big soccer tourney. Everyone likes watching it. You got this meme coin on Sol, Ronaldo, in the style of what we saw from Joe Biden and some of the other meme coins out there. This is one that some of the people in our community have been talking about. Came to you via pre-sale airdrop, and the tokenomics are actually pretty interesting. People talk about meme coins not really having any use case in real life. That's somewhat true sometimes, but this one actually weirdly combines how Portugal and Ronaldo is going to do in the Euros with kind of what the token will do in terms of burning. And, as far as other tokenomics go, as one of our members pointed out to me, not the craziest thing. So if you're looking for something to maybe trade around the Euros, keep your eyes on this one, I guess. Again, do your own research, and certainly not financial advice whenever we're talking about these bad boys. But we don't talk about meme coins a lot. Kind of fun to maybe dip a toe in them once in a while. Let's get back to reality here, though, as we talk about everything else that might matter more as we move along the week. Certainly maybe more than what Elon Musk is talking about and maybe other people are tweeting. But nonetheless, you can now say, I kept you in the loop. Back in the real world, very exciting times when we talk about tokenization. And I think one of the trends that will happen in this cycle, continually pushing this idea of, basically a cycle that's been led so far by by Wall Street in this cycle, has been BlackRock lead with their ETF, so much money coming in via traditional investors. Out today, we've got another big story in terms of JP Morgan testing out their own blockchain in a new way. This one's interesting in a couple different ways. I think on the one hand, you've got huge names in Fidelity and JP Morgan playing around with tokenization. This one on JP Morgan's Tokenized Collateral Network, TCN, piloting a tokenization of its money market fund with Onyx Digital Assets. Now, Onyx, if you remember, had originally been tested via Avalanche, and it seems like maybe that partnership isn't quite as robust as it used to be in terms of JP Morgan really trying to test out subnets over there. In this one, though, pretty interesting to think about what they're trying to do with this, because this is connecting JP Morgan's transfer agency business and Fidelity, separate entity entirely, of course. Obviously, a lot of people know Fidelity, but a huge push in terms of how much JP Morgan's been really focusing on Onyx and what we might see there. We chatted a little bit, by the way, with Robinhood's head of crypto, Johan Krabat, last week on Friday. If you missed that interview, just want to play a little clip of it, because I think all of these worlds right now are intersecting, especially in an election year, by the way. If you get a pro-crypto head of the SEC, all bets are off. I think we start to really see some more experimentation in this vein in a macro view, right? In terms of so much experimentation being done right now with stablecoins. What happens when the big players in the space all of a sudden start moving some of that stuff on chain? And Robinhood, as we discussed last week with Johan, kind of the perfect company now caught between traditional finance and stock trading and everything else, and now experimenting with tokenization after acquiring Bitstamp for just $200 million. I want to play a little clip of what he said he's excited about when it comes to tokenization on the Robinhood side. Take a listen.
I think tokenization is really something that we're excited about. I think if there is one company that is well placed to do that is Robinhood, because we have our broker dealer already. We have the knowledge of our crypto platform that is powering millions of customers. So definitely think that we're in a good spot there.
So they're in a good spot. And I think, again, just the fact that they're merely focusing on it, and by the way, not just focusing on it, but paying $200 million to acquire Bitstamp and all the users, not just on the retail side, but also on the institutional investor side, and also all the custody pieces that come with that. I think it's pretty interesting to connect the dots on that side and see what's going to happen, what more headlines will we see to echo JP Morgan experimenting with Fidelity. And I think it's going to be a huge driver for what's to come later on in the back half of 2024. We'll continue to dig into that and cover it with more projects focusing on experimenting in the world of real-world assets on chain. Outside of that, things to keep your eyes on this week. You got the big Fed decision, 2 p.m. on Wednesday. Perhaps not expected to see interest rate cuts, as we said off the top. However, we will get the updated dot plot from the Fed in terms of their expectations for when those rate cuts might happen over the course of the year. Bitcoin, of course, always trades in lockstep with rate expectations. We've seen that before. Going to be important to keep your eyes on that as we move forward. Outside of that, we're also getting an inflation print the same day, the morning on Wednesday. So another one to watch, as of course we've seen throughout this cycle, Bitcoin also trading around inflation prints. Texas, to wrap up the show today, I might want to give our sponsor one more shout out, by the way. Let's go ahead and thank our friends at Mezzo one more time, as I again call you to focus on Mezzo, a new home for Bitcoin holders to cultivate Bitcoin and grow wealth together. Use your Bitcoin on Mezzo to unlock real utility and honest yield. Join Bitcoin's first open source economic layer at Mezzo today. That's going to do it for us as we wrap up this crypto show to kick off the week. Thank you again for joining us. As always, you can check out all the biggest headlines curated by our community around the echoes of Web3. Not always meme coins, not always the Fed, mix of both. Rational, irrational. Markets are always both. Thank you again for joining us. That'll do it for everyone here at Coinage. I'm Zach Guzman, your host, signing off from our studio in Brooklyn, New York. We'll see you soon. Head to Coinage.media for all the latest. Thanks again, guys. Have a great week.